Okay. Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Justin. I am one of the Quanda Solutions engineers, which is another term for a forward deployed engineer. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Cowork. So I'm sure almost everyone here in some form has at least used ChatGPT chat or Claude chat and are probably all very familiar with it. I'll be talking about Cowork, which is a different shift in how we've been using AI. So with chat, how that kind of works, and I'm sure you'll all agree, is it's more of a conversation. It's you asking the AI something and it responds. Whereas Cowork is completely different. And how that works is you set out a task and it's going to try its best to achieve it. How we achieve these tasks can vary, but the best way to do it is to tell it what the goal is, how it needs to do it, and where it needs to get its information from to complete this task. So I'm just going to click this little thing here. Okay, so a good example may be that we need a one-page onboarding brief for Northfield Retail, and that's very vague. What I can do is actually add into the prompt, can you please fetch the information from Granola or Gmail, and then generate a document. I can actually give it an existing document that I may have used before, or I can get it to create a completely new one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually demo how we can create this using Cowork. So if I go here, I'm just going to quickly, okay. Pull our Granola notes and Gmail thread with Northfield and draft a one-page onboarding brief. There we go. Pull our Granola notes and Gmail thread to generate an onboarding brief for Northfield Retail. There we go. Okay. So while it's going along, I'm going to walk you through the actual UI here and how it's different from chat. So first of all, we're going to see the progress bar up here, or not necessarily a bar. But what Claude's going to do is it's actually going to set out the steps that it needs to follow to achieve the task that I've laid out. And as we can see here, it says it needs to pull the Granola notes, then the Gmail threads, then review the MSA and statement of work, draft the onboarding brief document, and then verify that it's done it correctly. Then we can see we've got a working folder, which is actually empty in this case. But what I can do is I can point Claude to a specific folder on my desktop. So how we were talking earlier, I can upload files to a project. Now I can leave all the files on my computer and Claude has full access to those files. I can then give it read permissions and I can also give it write permissions, which is great because if I want to change a specific document, I can then tell Claude pull context from certain documents within this folder and please update another document using all of that context. I can also then have an unlimited amount of context within that folder versus in a project, your context window is limited. So again, another positive. We can also see below here, this is the context that Claude's going to be using. So we can see it's actually referencing the Northfield Retail project, and it's also getting its context from our connectors. Another key distinction between Claude Cowork and Claude Chat is that Claude Cowork is built upon the framework of Claude Code. Claude Code can be quite daunting and seem a little bit complicated to use, which is why Anthropic then repackaged Claude Code as Cowork so that it is more accessible to people who don't have a technical background.
Just to help the oddball
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that
if you do one thing and get a connector going, and then they can sometimes work together. So to like
put a real world example to
this again, just go back
the boy example.
so many of my engagements with my seniors happened where I get
Forwarded
an email thread
told
to like read it and it would be new context to me, then I'd get asked to join a
cool.
and they'd explain to me, look, you know, our client is being sued by so and so, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'd be frantically trying to remember what was an email thread, jot down notes, etc. What this is doing is it's using the email context and the meeting context that's both a similar-ish thing, and it's producing a document out of that. So if in any of your
normal work, I'm sure
some of you operate across email and meetings, which forms the context of the piece of
work
work you need to do in
calls
about it. This is like a really, really powerful if you can combine those two. I mean, there's more that you can do, but it was, for me, it's huge unlock.
So just on like, does it read in your Gmails or whatever email content you have? Does it read the attachments?
Yeah, it can read the attachments in the email thread.
But does it? Does it
It can. I mean, again, like this isn't a deterministic product, but based on the probabilistic nature of it, it should happen. I've had an instance where things that should happen don't.
Yeah.
And then often I'll just say, please actually look at the attachment in that email thread, and then it will pull it.
Okay,
So-
if we stick with a legal example, if you ask me to peruse evidence or anecdotes or annexures or supplements, you don't know if it's doing that or not.
Yeah.
And so, but it's very confident in giving you the summary across the notes and the granola and the email.
Yeah, so what you can do, and what actually does sometimes happen, is you'll see there'll be a little bubble next to statements that it makes, and it'll either be a reference to a web link or to an actual internal document that you've given it. And if you're also unsure about something that it said, you can always say, where did you reference this from? And then it will give you the response where it got that information from. Okay, as you can see, here's the client onboarding brief. And this isn't quite the polished product. I think you can all agree that this is a Quanda document, but it doesn't have that Quanda look and feel like everything we've presented to you today. So what I could do is I could then go and say, can you please use this color palette? Can you please use this font? Can you please get this style? And we can work through the whole process of generating that finished, polished product. And that is very cool as well. So it's more of like an assistant than it is just a chatbot. And I like to think of it as the best assistant in the world, the most capable assistant in the world, however, the dumbest assistant in the world. You really have to sometimes massage it a bit and make sure it knows where to look and get all of its information from. But once you master that art, it becomes extremely capable and super powerful to use.
Massaging is extremely frowned upon at Quanda.
Okay, I'm going to go into our next section, and in my opinion, this is probably the biggest and most important section of using Claude. So, as I've mentioned, we've just developed a document using Cowork, and I didn't go through the whole process of fine-tuning the exact output that we've got. But if I had, I'll then have something which I really would want to be using in future cases. We're having people joining Quanda all the time. We want to make sure that people that are coming into the business are always going to be up to date with what's happening. This is a very useful document to be able to create. However, I don't want to go and have to talk to Claude every time and massage it into giving me the exact output that we want. And this is where skills come in. After that specific chat or co-work task that I've done, I can ask Claude to create a skill from what I've just done. And if we reference back to the document that I just created, I can then get Claude to mention the color palette, the exact font, what information needs to be in there, how the document needs to look, and all of the information that gave me that polished result. So as you can see on the screen, this is typically what a skill will look like. It will be referenced with the / and the thing that it does. So this is a create invoice skill. There's a little when to use blurb that you can see, and that is what Claude will see when it's time or what it needs to use that skill for. And then it has the steps detailed down below. It's very important to note that a skill is fully natural language, human readable, and we can actually create ourselves. I highly advise you don't, since Anthropic and Claude have gone through a very stringent process to make sure it creates the skills in a certain manner. But it's something that we can feel comfortable with because we know exactly what it's doing. It's not some hidden code or some foreign language that we are unsure about what it's doing. It's a predefined set of instructions that we know. So if I actually go here, I can say, please create a skill from this document. I know, old school. Okay, so we can actually get a skill created from this document. It's quite a challenge to actually get the skill to be exactly what you want, but through some practice and some figuring out, you can end up starting to produce your own skills that are very good. We at Quanda see so much value in this because we can start to implement business automations, either internally or externally for other businesses, because you now are getting outputs out in a matter of minutes versus hours of having to have someone sit and generate this document themselves. So let's get it to say for any client.
The comment on that, we haven't seen that yet today. What is quite cool, we'll sometimes ask you clarifying questions. If, like you're seeing now, you may not have seen that before. And you can also instruct it, so if you give it a super long prompt, you can say, ask me if you're unsure about anything, which actually is more useful than you might think. It's actually a very useful trick.
Just one of the
pet peeves I have with Cowork is like most of my stuff's stored on Google Drive. Like I don't want to go and download something to my desktop. Also because I've got an old Mac, like I have.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Cowork, like why can't I go and search Drive folder specifically? Like, I mean, it seems like it's got a Drive connection.
So you can, once you've set up that Drive connector that Kieran demonstrated earlier, you can actually say to Claude, can you please go check my Google Drive in this folder and find this document? And it will go and look and pull that information out for you. Once the skill's been written, yeah.
Greg, is your experience that the Drive connector just doesn't listen to you?
Well, like I haven't, granted I haven't used it in a while, but like when I last checked, I couldn't go and specify a specific folder and say go and do stuff within that folder, only on like a hard drive.
Give the skill that you're on.
It does prefer to go and store outputs into a local folder, but it
can't go in.
you can get it to go and search and extract things, but likes going local on the Mac.
Or
to the
changing
outputs.
things.
I think these connectors are quite new as well. That Drive is months or weeks old, and they keep adding permissions to it. Keep getting better.
Okay, so while that's going along, we don't necessarily need to use it. But if I ask Claude to now create an onboarding brief, by default, it's going to know that it needs to get that skill. So what it will do is it will actually look at the available skills and go and pick that one because of that when to use heading that we saw earlier. In some cases, or if it doesn't end up picking it up, you can always force it to use a specific skill by using a / and then literally just typing the skill's name out. So if I want to use the Quanda design skill and tell it to use the Quanda design skill to create the formatting for the specific onboarding brief, we can force it to do so.
So Justin, I think just close the onboarding brief and open the skill that it's created here,
Okay.
because it's worth breaking down those sections.
Yeah.
The description and the when to use sort of thing.
So here we can see the description. So generate a structured onboarding account brief, and I can read through the entire thing, but you can look at it yourself. And then here's the actual beginning of the skill where it starts. And you can see the step 1. It will specifically tell Claude to go to a specific tool on your computer and then use the context from that and then create certain outputs based on that. So you can see it then says reconcile and structure it, write the brief, and then verify and deliver the project. And that's the structure of a skill.
Can be arbitrarily long. So you can have a very, very long session with chat or code, like prompting it to do this and that and make the document look beautiful and use our colors and so on. And then finally at the end of it say, just like Justin did now, let's make a skill from this. Which in so doing is creating a repeatable process for what you just spent many hours doing. So you spent the time sort of crafting the process, then you ask Claude to craft it into a skill, and it's an expert at creating skills. In fact, the only skill that Claude ships with is called Skill Creator, so it knows how to do it according to Anthropic's principles. And then that is stored in Claude, and it will pull that skill whenever you make a request related to that process again.
So from here, I can then click Save Skill. And this is actually a question I get asked quite a lot by a lot of the clients I've worked with is, what if it's wrong and how do I change it? And it's actually a lot simpler than one might think. You can literally go into a chat and go and ask Claude to change that skill directly for you and then save it again. So just because you've created a skill doesn't mean it's set in stone or fixed forever and you'll need to go create a new one for a new thing you want to do. You can always continually update and iterate your skills to improve on what it's currently doing. They've also added a new feature where you can record what you do on your screen and it can create a skill from that. It's come out in the last week and I actually haven't had a chance to dabble with it, but for those of you that are feeling a little bit adventurous, you're more than welcome to try it and let me know how it works, but it's something I'll be looking into in the near future. All right, and just before I end off with the skills part, I just want to emphasize how useful this is because it's not just creating a specific document that it's useful for. It can be from everything towards how you like your emails written to how you want information passed to you in the morning by just asking, give me a morning brief. It's almost limitless on what kind of skills can be created. We generally see that its best suit is for repeatable tasks. So for things that you do very frequently and you want a specific way, that's where we see skills are working the best for us. Also, just to go back to Cowork, actually, I forgot to touch on something that's quite cool, is the scheduled tab. So for any process that you are doing in Cowork, again, if it's something that you want done on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, you can then ask Claude to schedule it for you, and it'll run that entire process at a specific time for you, and you can then end up seeing the things in your scheduled tab. I see Kieran hasn't dabbled too much with scheduling yet, but it's... So a very good example of something like that might be getting an 8 a.m. daily brief, and you can set up a Claude skill or go into Cowork and ask it to pull all your emails and identify which emails are important and require immediate attention, which emails are FYI, and which emails are basically spam. And you can then schedule that to run every single morning. So when you log onto your computer, you have a full breakdown of what needs to be done from your email perspective. You can then add to that and say, look at my meetings, look at my calendar, and you can start breaking up everything into repeatable tasks that get done by Claude. Okay, any questions? Any further questions? No?
Examples of skills you use?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you the Quanda brand one quick.
I'll suggest one we Granola. So,
Are you going to demo any?
Yeah, I'll actually demo some of them shortly. Okay, so plugins. This is something you probably might have heard about or seen as well. It's in the little toolbox customized tab. If you click on there, you'll see all your skills, all your connectors, and you'll see plugins. Plugins are basically just a collection of skills, and where it can be really powerful is if you're working for a company or a business, you can start bundling these automations or repeatable tasks together for your business. So, for example, I've now created the Quanda brand skill and the Quanda reply email skill, and I want Kieran and Chris to have that as well. This is now something we can bundle together as a Quanda team plugin, and everyone across the business will have the exact same skill and repeatable task done in the same manner, which is again very powerful. You generating uniformity and consistency across the AI output that you're getting in your business. A very cool thing as well is you can also shop for other plugins that people are providing. So Anthropic, they have a marketing plugin, a finance plugin, and within that's various skills that they've deemed useful for businesses to have. So I can show you a bit of that as well. So if I go browse, you can actually see the Anthropic organization. So there's the marketing, engineering, finance, PDF viewer, and data plugins. And then within the marketing skill, you can see the various skills that are packaged. So performance report, campaign plan, draft content. Okay. So I'm going to, Kieran actually demoed that one. Okay. I'm going to try and demo how we can use a skill with Trello and Granola. Sorry, I'm just bending down, yeah.
It's called workshop something.
Okay.
The skill's called workshop something.
Can you please look at the Granola transcripts for Northfield Retail and extract and assign all the information that needs to be put on Trello cards? And can you please use the workshop skill? We'll see. Oh, I let go early. Will it not be there? Okay, let me try that again. On the left?
On the left of the screen. All the way to the left, the cursor. And then whisper. And push recover there.
Was it not there?
Push recover.
There.
We recorded it.
Okay, we'll try again. Sorry guys, I'm not as slick with Whisper. Can you please go to the Granola transcripts for Northfield Retail, extract the information from there and assign it to Trello cards using the workshop skill for Trello? Oh, I've done it again. Yeah. Is it there? There we go.
Just to make sure this works, paste it in there, Justin, but just to make sure it works.
Where's the cursor gone? Your cursor's disappeared.
Is it not pasting?
The cursor's not showing up, so I can't paste.
Refresh.
It's an app. I can't refresh. Oh boy. Let's try here.
Okay, and then just go. Oh. Okay, this is on you. If it doesn't work, just go /workshop. And then it's Granola Trello skill, just to make sure. So,
I wasn't too far off with the naming of the skill, but
but because we set this up for the workshop, I'm not sure if it was used
Yeah.
or Granola one that I have for mine and Chris's board.
yeah.
I think it's just worth explaining what's going to happen here. Just, I'm not going to steal your thunder, but just for context, we've got a bit of a all there. Would you want to explain, Justin? I don't want to steal your thunder. You want to explain what's going to happen here, but we just had a bit of a...
Yeah, so I mean, what I've done here is I've forced Claude to look at the specific skill, and if I actually open it, you can see the exact details and processes that it's going to follow. It knows exactly where to go on Granola and find all that information. And then from there, it's going to actually, because I've done it in a Cowork chat, you should actually see, okay, not in this case.
So just to bring
But-
it to like practical level, many meetings, there's to-do lists, right? Like in a meeting and someone says, I'll action that and I'll do that and okay guys, that's on me, etc. And we used to like scribbling that stuff down and trying to remember what you've got to do. And then you're going to add your own Trello board because that's your task management platform, what this does is it's going to go through the Granola meeting notes, look at what you said you would do, what someone said they would do, and add it on here. So internally, for example, we have the skill that runs, how long
Once a day.
the length of the to-do list would suggest more often than that. But twice a day, the skill runs through all our meeting notes, our chats, and our emails, and it sees what did Chris say he would do, what did Jared say he would do, and then it adds in it takes the cognitive burden off having to worry all the time, what is on my to-do list, etc. So that's some of what Justin asked.
Yeah.
It might be asking for confirmation.
Chris, how natural is it? Do you find in your meetings that you start saying things like, I will do this loudly?
So it's interesting. So actually, two things. The first one is more, more nice, and the other one, yes. I find we engage much better in meetings now that Granola is running. So, and that all this happens. Because I used to find I'm so paranoid about forgetting what I said I would do, or someone's giving me instructions, noting it down. I wasn't actually engaging in the conversation. Whereas now, because I know that's all happening in the background, and I'll be honest, I use it in person when I'm meeting with people over a coffee. I typically have Granola running, and I can just engage much better than having to remember everything this person said to feedback. Kieran and I have actually tended to do that, yes. So if we're talking, let's say, for example, about an update to a prototype, we will, to use again, we'll read it into the record.
Yeah.
We'll purposely keep out about the change because we know we're going to get probably Claude or another language model to interpret that. And I will, what's great with Granola is, I often remember things I have to do on a run, for example, or when I'm on a walk or whatever, and I'll just quickly run a Granola to say, I need to do X, Y, and Z.
And then later it'll be
And then I know it'll be on my Trello board, for example.
So you can just see one's been created in the first column. They're getting added as we're watching there. So it's pulled the transcript context from the Granola calls that I spoke to you about earlier, the ones that I faked with the computer speaking to itself. And it's determined what in that context was deemed a task or an action item, and then it's made that into a single item and added it as a ticket to the Trello board. If this is just a dummy Trello board, but like on Chris and mine, for example, on our Expo board, we are both members on it, and it will assign the ticket to Chris or Kieran according to who it deemed was responsible for it in the call. And then it doesn't do any, I guess urgency is taken care of by the column that it places it in.
Also, a nice thing to add in Granola, if you do use Google Meet for your meetings, you can actually set it up so that it can differentiate between the individual speakers. So that's super helpful for the context as well, because then Claude knows exactly who was speaking and saying different parts in each meeting. In terms of Teams or Zoom, I'm not too sure with that yet, but I'm sure it's definitely something we'll be working towards to get integrated. Okay. The next one was the legals for a new client, but I can show that one. Okay.
In fact, why don't you just do the final one,
Okay.
proposal, because that's actually the same. It's a document.
Okay, I'll go to the final one. Can you please generate a proposal for Northfield Retail using Granola and Gmail?
I think there's a skill for it, a workshop or something.
Yeah, I'll just force the skill as well.
So, and then maybe just explain what you're getting when you force it versus hope.
Yeah. Okay. So here I'm asking Claude to create a proposal for this mock-up business, and the reason I'm actually forcing it is because we also have our own actual proposal skill, whereas this proposal skill is slightly different. So if I hadn't forced it, there's a good chance I was going to go to our other one. It's just because of duplicate purposes. But when I do enter it like that, it will use this skill and it won't use the other one. So it's just one way to ensure that we are getting the output that we want. So
confirm, like, you now doing this within Cowork, right?
Yeah.
Like, it feels like that's more, that could be like a chat.
yeah, 100%. So I mean, once you have skills set up, it's a lot easier for Claude to actually go and follow the instructions of the skill. Where Cowork's more useful is it decides what steps it needs to take on its own, which is then useful in creating a skill. So you'll find you'll have a lot more success creating skills using something like Cowork, and you'll find that the results you get between chat and Cowork using a skill are going to be very similar, if not identical. So you'll see here it will be running.
This is what I showed at the very beginning.
Yeah.
The document you're working towards. And it takes context from multiple locations.
And if we actually click on this skill, we can see exactly why it's using the connectors and not the project, and you can read all the things. And this is the instructions that Claude's going to follow. And it's actually makes a lot of sense when you think about why this works. If you look at any usage of AI, you'll almost always find that the longer your prompt, the better the output. And that's just because you're giving Claude more detail. However, it can be incredibly frustrating to have to tell Claude this whole long paragraph instruction every single time. And all this is doing is just creating that instruction in a very structured and repeatable manner so that when you want to use it, it's there. And literally all it will do in the chat that I type, it's just going to inject that skill beforehand as an instruction. And you can see here, it's busy writing the PDF document.